Hello again. This is React Native creating a blog with context. All right, so we're gonna review what we did earlier. So we set up the context implementation. I did a little bit of modifications already, and I will explain what is happening. But first, I wanted to change the title of this. So welcome home. And that's just for me, I'm tired. I was tired of seeing the title in its own. So we're gonna create a button that is gonna let us add an entry to the blog. So in here, it's gonna be adding a blog entry. And in order to do that, we're gonna go over to the blog context we created earlier. And inside of this context file, we're going to use a state. And in order to use states, you're gonna have to bring in the hook from React. And so by doing this, now you're ready to use the use state setting. And now we're gonna declare a blog post, and we're gonna set the setter, the set blog post, and we're gonna use the state. After that, we're gonna create a function that is gonna let us add a blog post to the current blog post state. And so by doing this, I'm basically gonna just hide this for now. I'm gonna explain everything that we're gonna be doing. So it's basically, we're gonna create a variable called addBlog post. So we're gonna create that, and this is gonna be a function, const addBlog post. And this is gonna be a function, and now we have declared it. Okay, so now we're gonna start by using the setter of blog post as the initial declaration. So we're gonna do this, and that is all we're doing right now. And since we're gonna have to add items to this array of objects, we're gonna pass in the values. We don't want to recreate this all the time. So instead, we're gonna get the values from there by using this convention. So blog posts, and then this blog post is going to require more arguments. And so by doing this, we're basically saying, get me the values from this current one, because we don't want to recreate the array. And instead, we're going to add in more arguments to it. So in this case, we're going to add the title, the post in here as a second argument for this set blogs post. So we're going to pass in the title, and we could pass in a value like, hey, this is a new blog post. But let's make it more interactive per se. And we're gonna use backticks, and we're gonna do blog post number, and then we're gonna pass in our what is this called? Our dollar sign, and then pass in the curlies. And so now we're gonna be able to get where we want, and right now we want the blog posts, and we want the length of the blog post from here. So every time we're gonna check the length of it, and we're gonna add 1 to it. So that way we're gonna see an increment number whenever we click the button that we're gonna be creating. And So now that we have this, oh, I forgot one thing. We have to set this as an array because that's what we're gonna pass in to the setter. So we want to pass in the array instead of strings. So we're gonna pass in the array, and then we're basically done with this thing. The only other thing that we're gonna need to do is pass in the value. See, in the past we were just only passing the blog post value as like this. So blog posts, and we were getting the array of objects we had at the beginning, which looked like this. Blog post equals, and we had a an array of objects that look like this. And then we had another one that looked like this. Post number 2. We had it like that, but now since we're creating a addBlog post to it, we don't have to do that. We're gonna have to do it this way. And what this means is that we're gonna pass in a value, and then we're gonna pass in an object, and we're gonna pass in the data object value, and that data, we can name it whatever we want, but at the same time we want to keep it consistent and keep it clean. So the data is going to be the blog post. That is what we were setting, our initial setting, and then our setter in our addBlog post action would be passing as an argument as well. So now that that's done, let's go into the blog screen, and we're gonna be adding a button. And I had already added the button up here, so if you haven't declared the button item hook from React Native, go ahead and add it. And then we're going to make another modification to the blog context. In the past, like I said, we were only passing one value, and we had it cons, and then it said blog post equals to use context blog context. But instead, since we're passing 2 arguments, we're gonna create a curly bracket, and then this is basically saying instead of doing this, const data equals use context blog context. Instead of doing that a couple of times, we can just combine them by doing it this way. So now that we have all that, we needed to update the flat list. Now data is coming from the data type, and then we need to update this thing to get the blog post from the data, and then blog post. That is all we need to do for that. And now we are adding a add post. We can also well, I'm not going to do that right now, but this is basically adding a button, the title of the button, and then on press we're going to add a blog post. So this is now being utilized because we passed it here as an argument from the context values. And now let's go ahead and test it. I'm going to test it in Android Studio. I'm going to build it. I don't think I had it built earlier, so build it, and then we're going to play it. Okay, that is launching, All right, so now we have the welcome screen, and then we go to blog, and we got the blog, which is the, I don't know why it's called the index screen, but let's change that. Blog screen, it says blah blah blah, index screen, and I'm just going to remove that. So we're going to go back to here, and all right, so now we're in the blog. I'm going to add a post. All right, so now it's adding post. You see every time that I click that, it adds one to the list. So we're going to test it over here as well. Add post, and it looks like everything is working just fine. All right, so that concludes the adding action to add a new post. The next thing will be about adding, I think we're going to add icons. So we'll bring in another dependency, and we're going to wire it up. Okay. Thank you for watching.